All right, well, thank you all for joining us for our lunchtime chats with Tlingit Haida. My name is Shahya Ish, Richard Peterson. I'm the president of Tlingit Haida. Again, we're really excited to have everybody join us today and tune in and learn about our Native Lands and Resources Department. The lunchtime chats have been an ongoing effort of Tlingit Haida to have better reach out to our tribal citizens, be informative, accessible, and transparent. And I think we've been feeling pretty good about these, and they're an ongoing and continuing effort of the tribe. Really excited about this week's lunchtime chat. We have a really great panel for you. Native Lands and Resources really covers quite a wide berth of area for the tribe, and so this will be a pretty packed lunchtime chat. As always, if you like it, you get it, the video as we're going, you'll be entered in for some door prizes. And we really encourage you to participate with some questions. As long as we don't run out of time, we'll get to your questions live. If we do run out of time, though, we will make sure that those questions are answered in the comment section. So, feel free to ask away. And we really appreciate your participation as our tribal citizens. Go ahead and get started and with introductions, and we'll have Desiree Duncan introduce herself. You're muted, Desiree.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you, President Peterson. I'm Desiree Duncan. I'm the Native Lands Manager for Tlingit Haida, and I'm Eagle Killer Whale. My Tlingit name is Goon 18. I've been with the tribe for 29 years, so it's been an honor to serve the tribe, and I'll let my staff introduce themselves.
Thank you, Desiree. I'm Raymond Paddock. I'm the environmental coordinator for the Naval Lands and Resources Department at Tlingit Haida. I'm Kagwantan of the Eagle's Nest House. My Tlingit name is Kusatong. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name's Sir Scott. I'm the environmental specialist with Native Lands and Resources. I am Muskogee Creek from Oklahoma, and I've been here living in Juneau for about 6 years now. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Harold?
My name is Harold Jacobs. I am Yunyedi from the Big House in Taku. I have been working for Tlingit Haida as the Cultural Resource Specialist since 1997 for 2 years and since 2001. And I have enjoyed working here and doing the work that I am doing here.
So we'll go ahead and get started. Desiree, as the manager of Native Lands and Resource Department, can you start us off with an overview of the NLR Department?
Yes. So the Native Lands and Resources Department, our mission is to manage and provide services that enhance and protect the land, environment, and cultural artifacts. And so we have several programs within our department. We have the Cultural Resources Program, which is funded by the National Park Service, and the Realty, Forestry, and Transboundary and Climate Change programs that are funded by the BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs. We also have our EPA programs, which is the Indian General Assistance Program and the State Travel Response Programs. And so, like I said, there's several programs, and we'll be happy to talk about those soon.
Sure. Well, I'll go ahead and turn to our cultural resources. Harold, can you talk a little further about the Cultural Resources Program? Harold, you got to unmute.
There, can you hear me now?
We hear you.
The Cultural Resources Program repatriates objects of cultural patrimony, sacred objects, funerary objects, unassociated funerary objects, and human remains in accordance with the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act of 1990. And the law that it's based on is the National Museum of the American Indian Act of 1989. And these acts allow federally recognized tribes to repatriate items from museums and federal agencies which receive federal funding, but it does not cover private collections. NAGPRA, as the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act is often referred to, provides a process for museums and federal agencies to return certain Native American cultural items, such as the mentioned human remains and funerary objects, which means there were human remains with the objects when they were collected, and unassociated funerary objects, which may have had remains but were not with objects when they were collected, sacred objects and objects of cultural patrimony to the culturally affiliated tribes which request them.
Harold, how is the Cultural Resource Program funded?
The Native Lands and Resources Department secured a grant from the National Park Service. The National Park Service is the only agency which funds NAGPRA programs. And we do these with consultation and documentation grants. The grants will be used to conduct research and documentation and prepare claims for repatriation of cultural items located in the museums, and our current one is for the DeYoung Museum in San Francisco and the American Museum of Natural History in New York. This funding will also allow the Cultural Resources Program to monitor and complete the pending claims we have on about 32 objects in 5 museums.
So what kind of services does the Cultural Resource Program provide?
Our main program, of course, is NAGPRA, but we'll also work on preserving these objects and proper handling of them as they're in our care. Family trees where they're available. I do have a lot of family trees, but they're only for the people in the trees who request them. They're not for me to give to other families, you know, like personal information. And we are able to use those in connecting families to the objects that we claim. And we also have history on the objects and stories that go with these. And we also do maintain the memorial calendar. People let us know when they are having any type of ceremony that we can post in our calendar, and we try to keep that up to date as much as possible.
Great. Can you talk about how many items have been successfully repatriated under the Cultural Resources Program?
So far, we have repatriated about 145 objects under the NAGPRA Act. And a good number of those are shaman objects, which are not displayed or used, of course. And under the National Museum of the American Indian Act, we have repatriated 30 objects.
So what are some of the most recent accomplishments of the Cultural Resource Program?
We have participated in formal consultations with the Los Angeles County Museum, the Milwaukee Public Museum, the Birmingham Art Museum recently, which has returned a ceremonial panel to Wrangell. I'm kind of veering off from these notes here, but that was a major fine for Wrangell to get that back. That is the first object the Kayashki Teton clan has had returned to them. And we repatriated 3 objects from the National Museum of the American Indian, also from Wrangell, a dagger from the Kiksadi there, and a chilkat blanket and a beaded shirt for Wrangell. And last year we had a classic grease dish, circa late 1700s to 1800, was donated by a family in Oregon, and it's carved in the form of a ladle. It's a bowl shape, but it has a handle and a spout on it. It's still saturated and releasing oil from its years of use. We were awarded a NAGPRA grant again this year for $89,000 to do consultations at the Detroit Institute of Arts and also the Metropolitan Art Museum in New York City.
Great. Well, it's always really exciting for Tlingit when it's called Atu'u, and when this Atu'u returns, it's like our relatives coming home, and it's a really powerful feeling. One I've been very fortunate to witness and see. So I thank you, Harold. Turn over to the environmental side now. Ray, can you give us kind of more of an in-depth overview of the environmental program?
Sure. Thank you, President Peterson. So the environmental program was created to provide training and education, coordinate statewide and regional projects, and increase the Southeast Alaska's tribes' capacity to carry out the environmental programs. Based on environmental priorities as identified by the Southeast tribes, NLR, the Naval Lands and Resources, provides service to assist tribes in addressing local and regional environmental issues with the United States Environmental Protection Agency funded projects.
Great.
And next.
Can you give an explanation of what IGAP is?
Yeah, sure. So IGAP again is the Indian General Assistance Program, which was established by the EPA to provide tribal governments with funding to develop capacity to manage their own environmental programs tailored to their tribe's needs. Through the IGAP grant, NLR provides education and outreach for Southeast Alaska tribes, organizes and hosts our annual Southeast Environmental Conference and quarterly teleconferences, which we've actually switched now to weekly teleconferences due to COVID. We also create networks and work with groups among Southeast Alaska to build each other's natural resources, programs, and expertise.
Great. You mentioned the environmental conference, and that's something that your environmental program normally hosts in partnership with our other Southeast Alaska tribes. Can you explain what that conference is, and will you be hosting one this year?
Yeah. So the environmental conference brings together Southeast tribes, natural resource professionals, and others to learn about current tribal environmental priorities. It allows us to do training, share information, and network with other environmental professionals around the state and the region. This conference was designed to discuss and address environmental and natural resource concerns in Southeast Alaska. Information is presented by agencies, organizations, and tribes throughout the region on their projects and programs in hopes of building relationships and possible collaboration to offset costs and to share resources, which is something tribes need as we are very limited in our resources. NLR environmental programs also host quarterly teleconferences calls to provide information and updates on each other's programs. Again, we've been doing weekly chats now since COVID happened, and it's allowed us to share a lot more information and kind of keep our sanity too. So,
Great. Sir, can you talk to me about what the State and Tribal Response Brownfield program?
Yes. So the State and Tribal Response Program, or STRP, the acronym, it's designed to give tribes funding to identify, inventory, assess, and develop a plan that responds to any potentially contaminated sites, whether it be land or water. So these sites that are presently too unhealthy or for safe usage, but they may also be used again through rehabilitation. So the STRP program does provide that service. So again, yeah, just so it does give us the opportunity to be those stewards of the air, land, and sea. I mean, protecting the land. So it's a great program.
Great. What is the Southeast Alaska Tribal Toxins Network?
The Southeast Alaska Tribal Toxins Network, that was a partnership formed with the Native Lands and Resources Department. That is it's a program that monitors plankton here in Southeast Alaska waters. The plankton that are known to cause harmful algal blooms, or HABs, events such as paralytic shellfish poisoning, or PSP. So the goal of this Southeast Alaska Tribal Toxins Network is to create a reduced risk management plan for shellfish harvesting by our tribal citizens and communities.
Great. Can you talk a little bit about the shellfish and water sampling that the environmental program is doing under the Southeast Alaska Tribal Ocean Research Partnership with other Southeast tribes?
For sure. So in partnership with the Southeast Alaska Tribal Ocean Research, or CTOR, the Nlr Department regularly monitors phytoplankton activity, and it collects shellfish samples at the designated sites in Juneau. All shellfish samples are sent to the Sitka lab for PSP toxin analysis and testing by the CTOR lab. And those results are reported on their website and also distributed to us here at our offices. And then we do regularly send out those notice of information, or notices of the results once we get those, usually once every other week during the summer.
I'm really proud of this work, and I really think we need to acknowledge and compliment Sitka Tribe of Alaska, because they own the CTOR lab and have been a tremendous partner in this, as Southeast tribes are doing similar work to gather and send to them. I think it's just fantastic.
Definitely.
What sites are the environmental staff collecting shellfish and water samples from?
So currently, there are 2 sites that we are collecting shellfish from, which are Lena Point, or Auk Rec area, and also the Amalga Harbor area. So at both sites, we're doing both. We're collecting shellfish and water samples from both of those areas. And again, those are the results that kind of give us an indication of what could possibly be indicators of toxins in the water for the shellfish that are collected. So
I'm wondering then, those sites were probably picked because of the high use of traditional use harvest there?
Correct. Yeah. So we have engaged the community for just kind of to get an idea of where high use areas are, cultural use areas are for shellfish harvesting, and there are several, but we wanted to pick areas that are a little more easily accessible, and so those areas are, again, those are the ones that were brought to us from just a community of where people have been known to collect. And so we just wanted to get a good representation of the water areas in those spots again. So there's one in Knock Bay, one out more further out the end of the road. And the results can vary from site to site, even just 100 yards away. So it is important to kind of monitor the results that the lab sends us.
Yeah, and I know we share those results. Is it weekly or on our social media?
Yeah. So we do have, I believe we do send out a post. I believe it's every other week is what we usually try to aim for. Sometimes it's always just weather permitting, whether we're able to get out into the field and collect the shellfish. But during the summer months, we are generally pretty regular with collecting those samples. So we do get those out, and it does take about 3 days or 4 days for us to get the results back after we collect the shellfish and water samples. So it's a pretty quick turnaround, but we do get those out every other week.
So what's a safe PSP level for consumption of shellfish?
So the safe for consumption level of PSP, it must be under 80 micrograms per 100 grams of shellfish tissue. So that's about as much meat as about the size of the palm of your hand. So that's just a good little quick way to measure about 80 micrograms per 100 grams.
Yeah, growing up in the village, we were always told, don't harvest in a month without an R, and, watch out for red tide. But, I've been involved with some of these over the years and found out actually a lot of that's not true. Red tide actually isn't tied to PSP. And, it doesn't, just the months without an R really isn't a very scientific guide. So can you talk about some of the symptoms of PSP and why we take this so serious?
Yes, so the PSP, I'm sure a lot of people have kind of heard that around, but it is a serious illness that is caused by eating the contaminated shellfish with dinoflagellate algae or Alexandrium. So that produces harmful saxitoxins. The symptoms of PSP can include tingling of the lips and the tongue. It can progress to tingling of the fingers and toes and loss of muscle control in the arms and or legs. But it's also sometimes followed by difficulty in breathing, or even in serious cases can be lead to death in as little as 2 hours from paralysis due to the breathing muscles. So it is a serious toxin, and that's one of the reasons why we're trying to be on the forefront of monitoring it.
Yeah, I really am just incredibly proud of the work that you and your peers do there. And again, it's something that's done throughout Southeast Alaska. Many of the village tribes are partners in this, and they also do the same gathering. And, CTOR puts out that report. I pay attention. I've known people in my life who we've lost to this, and so we want to make sure that we do what we can to enjoy our traditional foods, but be cognizant of some of the dangers out there. So I think I just commend you guys for what you're doing there, sir. Desiree, as I turn to you, what are some recent accomplishments of the environmental program?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think you just heard some of them. I think the HABS program is a big accomplishment in the environmental program. And another area that Ray touched on was our Southeast Environmental Conference. I think this is probably our 16th year that we're having this conference, and this year it's going to be virtual. Last year it was in Craig, and we had over 90 participants. So I think Ray will probably talk about that a little bit more, but we're looking forward to hosting that in September and October. Also, an accomplishment that is not on the slide is that we secured a grant with the Sitka Sound Science Center to do a COVID survey, what it was like before COVID and what it's like now. And so we're just in that beginning stages. So, and Ray can talk about that too as well.
Great. Another area that NLR oversees is the Realty and Forestry Program. Can you talk about how that program is funded?
Yeah, so the Realty and Forestry programs were the first programs in the Native Lands and Resources Department back in 1991 when I started. And so these programs are funded by the Bureau of Indian Affairs through our compact. And so when we first started, we were a contract tribe, and now we're a compact tribe. And so the Realty Program provides land management services to Native allottees that received their land pursuant to the 1906 Native Allotment Act, and also landowners that received restricted land pursuant to the 1926 Native Townsite Act. So the Native allotments are up to 160 acres. The town sites are little lots. For example, in the Juneau Indian Village, those are the town site restricted town site lots that we have in Juneau. And so some of the services that we provide are land conveyance, processing, such as gift deeds, sales, leases. We do probates. So if one of the restricted landowners passes away, we have to probate their estate to find out who their heirs are. We assist in preparing last will and testaments, and just, counseling. And so in our compact, we serve communities in Craig, Juneau, Haines, Ksm, Ketchikan, Klawock, Petersburg, Saxon, Skagway, Tenakee, and Wrangell.
What is the forestry program, and what services does that program provide?
So our forestry program, we provide, forest management services to the landowners of the Native allotments in the communities that I just mentioned. And so some of the services are timber sales, which, timber isn't, we haven't done a timber sale, I think, since in the 90s. Tree thinning, we do trespass investigations in that program. And then we actually did a forest management plan, and I think that's the next slide, so.
You went right into it. Maybe my next question is if you could talk a little bit about that plan.
Yeah, so this Southeast Forest Management Plan is for the whole Southeast region. This Sea-Alaska region is what they call it. And so it's all of the communities in Southeast Alaska, not just the ones in our compact. So Tlingit Haida was funded to do this plan, which is required by the Bureau of Indian Affairs in order to run these trust programs. And so we started doing the inventory in 2017. We completed it in 2018, the field work, and then the plan was signed and approved by yourself, President Peterson, and the regional director of BIA. So we do have the forest management plan that's available to any Native allottee that wants to have a copy. They can just contact me. So there's approximately 186 Native allotments in the Southeast region with about 18,500 acres. And so it just, provides guidance to assist us in the management activities on the Native allotments. We look at, the health of the trees, what kind of trees are on the allotments, what the best use of the land might be.
So, along with developing the forest management plan, what are some of the other accomplishments of your Realty and Forestry program?
So that was a major accomplishment, is getting the forest management plan approved. So that is, I think, one of the biggest accomplishments in the forestry program that we did. Realty, we process the land conveyance transactions and the probates. And right now, there's a big backlog of the probates because some of the probates are very old and it's hard to find the heirs. And so, I have Irene Lampe is our probate technician and has been working very hard to get that backlog taken care of, as well as Dominique Stitt. She's also learning the probates.
Great. One of the statistics that we're always really proud of and hear a lot is that Native American Alaska Natives are the highest serving population in the military. And narrowing it down even further, Tlingit Haida are the highest serving group. And so I know NLR has been really immersed in working with our Alaska Native veterans, and especially with this recent Alaska Native Vietnam era veterans land allotment. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, yes, I'll be happy to. Yes, so the Alaska Native Vietnam era veterans land allotment, it's called the John Dingell Act, was passed in March 12th, 2019. And so since then, Tlingit and Haida, we have been contacting the veterans, and they've been contacting us, and we've been getting their up-to-date information. So we've been in contact with over 100 Alaska Native veterans in the Southeast region. And we have received from the BLM about 220 identified eligible veterans in our region that are eligible to receive a Native allotment. And they can receive up to 160 acres. They don't have to prove use and occupancy like, you know, the 1906 Native Allotment Act required. And so it's very exciting, but the Tongass National Forest in Southeast Alaska is not available, so in the law, and so they have to select elsewhere. There's a little bit of land in Haines that is state selected land, which the state has to give up in order for them to select. So we're looking at other options for our Southeast veterans. They don't want to select up in the interior, and it's understandable. So our role here at the Native Lands and Resources is to assist them in the application process. And the applications will most likely be available in November 2020 of this year. They were supposed to be available here in September, but the BLM is a little bit behind schedule at this time.
Yeah, I know this has been a really frustrating process for a lot of our veterans. I mean, for heaven's sakes, it's been so long since the Vietnam War. That's how long they've gone without their allotment, and they were essentially ignored. They were busy serving their country and in Vietnam, and then not able to claim their allotment. And so we met with Senator Sullivan yesterday, and it was something we talked about, and actually trying to correct this because, you know, our veterans don't want to select land outside of Southeast Alaska, and nor should they have to. So unfortunately, that's the law as it's written right now. We don't have anything really to do with that, other than right now we're advocating to our congressional delegation to make those amendments and try to right a wrong, and make sure that our veterans get what they're promised. So I know Desiree has been at the forefront of that and works very closely with the veterans group, and I really appreciate your role there, Desiree. And you know, we try to go above and beyond for our veterans who are sacred to us, and we want to honor them and their service. And so we're looking at better ways to provide more service and to be of assistance to our veterans. So pay attention to our social media. I'm hoping we'll have announcements in the coming months about how we can do more for our veterans outside of not just allotment, but just their access to care and resources that are available to them. So we want to help make sure that they receive the services that are promised and owed to them. Switching gears, Ray, one of the big things that Tlingit Haida has been involved in, you know, for probably 10 or more years is the transboundary work and of course climate change. Our vice presidents, Rob Sanderson and Will Micklin, are really immersed in this and work on this, but you guys really are in the trenches doing a lot of work for us on that. So what kind of work is being done under the transboundary watershed protection?
Thank you, President Peterson. I appreciate that. Well, right now, we have a team of 3. We partner with the Southeast tribes to assist us in monitoring these rivers, especially during COVID. But currently, we have a team go out once a month to each river as we can, if accessible, always the weather dependent. But our team goes out, collects water samples based on heavy metals, sediment sampling, and we send that out to get tested. The reason why we're doing this is because British Columbia, which borders Southeast Alaska, they're experiencing a mining boom. And several of these mines are located on the head rivers that flow into Southeast. Of course, these mines can pose a threat to our communities and our cultural way of life. So that is why we're doing these baseline studies right now. We work on raising tribal awareness on transboundary mining activities and provide administrative support and resources to the Southeast Alaska Indigenous Transboundary Commission, which engages in the transboundary watershed. They are the, if you will, the political arm of the group, and what we are doing at Tlingit and Haida is essentially kind of the science work to provide backup for the tribes.
Great. Can you give us an overview on the Canada-based mines and what watersheds are maybe potentially impacted?
Sure. I'll start with the Unit right now. The Unit, which is outside of Ketchikan, the Ksm Mine, which flows into the Unit just outside of Ketchikan, has 3 open pit mines. One's an underground mine that will produce 2 billion tons of tailings, held behind 2 dams the size of the Hoover Dam. And that's a scary aspect when you think about it, considering what happened, I believe, in 2014 with the Mount Polley disaster in British Columbia. The other one is the Taku River, the Tulsa Chief Mine. It's a confluence of the Taku that has been non-operating since the 1950s. Yeah, it's still creating acid mine drainage, as you see in the picture there. The proposed reopening of this mine is estimated to leak about 23,800 pounds of zinc, 5,100 pounds of copper, 122 pounds of lead, and 40 pounds of arsenic every year. So some scary stuff. Moving on, the other one is the Stikine outside of Wrangell. The Red Chris Mine, operating an open pit copper gold mine, is located on the Iskut River, which is a confluence of the Stikine. It's estimated to produce over 300 tons of tailings that will require water treatment in perpetuity. The other one is the Shaft Creek Mine, which is also a proposed open pit copper gold mine, could produce upward towards 1.5 billion tons of waste rock that would be stored in Mess Lake, located on the tributary of the Stikine. Another scary part of the Stikine is the Galore Creek Mine, proposed open pit copper mine that would be the 4th largest in North America. That would produce 540 million tons of ore and 840 million tons of waste rock to be piled into 2 tributaries on the Stikine.
So you kind of got to it, but what are our concerns and what is at stake with these mines? Well,
some of our concerns, again, is lack of meaningful tribal involvement. While we do have a political arm and they are reaching out to First Nations and whatnot, we still don't feel our voices being heard. And despite the potentially most impacted communities, we are trying to have our voice heard, I guess you could say. So that is one aspect of concern. Of course, the other one is, like I said, contamination of our traditional foods. This impacts our communities, our way of life. So yeah, that's always a big concern. The other part is fishing is a huge part of our industry, our economic industry in Southeast Alaska. And each of these rivers that we've named have all 5 salmon species going up that. The impacts of that could be catastrophic to our economy here in Southeast Alaska.
Yeah. What rivers are currently being monitored to establish the baseline water quality data?
As mentioned, the Taku, the Stikine, we have not yet started the Unit. That is something we are working with the USGS, the Ketchikan Indian community, and the BIA as well, and we hope to get started on that soon. The other ones we are working on are the Alsek River outside of Yakutat, the Klehini and the Chilkat outside of Cluckwan and Haines. And those ones are ones we're focusing on now, as those are new rivers we have not started. We just started those last year, if you will.
Great. What will be done with the baseline water quality data once testing has been completed?
The data will be shared with regulatory agencies on both sides of the border to assess the impacts from upstream development and inform shared watershed management decisions. The data will be made public, of course, as soon as we can find the best clearinghouse, if you will, to share that with everyone.
Great. Climate change is a very important issue for Southeast Alaska. Can you talk about the climate adaptation plan and template that the NLR has developed?
Yes. So Southeast Alaska is facing drastic weather changes in the near future due to climate change. Tlingit Haida began seeking information and studies on climate change in Southeast to fully understand the impacts to our tribal citizens and our way of life. We were able to receive funding from the Bureau of Indian Affairs to start studying what an adaptation plan means and what our priorities are. That led us into being able to go after more funding to actually develop an adaptation plan. And thanks to our natural resource specialist, Kenneth Weitzel, he took that and ran with it. We were able to develop a 53-page document that is focused on, if you will, cultural resources and whatnot. So things like salmon, cedar, forest products, and things of that we as tribal people depend on. We started to, if you will, see what these impacts climate change will have on these programs. And the plan is to be able to ensure that we can address these issues or plan for the future and how we will adapt, if you will.
Great. Desiree, what are some of the recent accomplishments under the transboundary and climate change work that NLR has been completing?
Yes, so just to give you a little bit of background on the transboundary is we received the funding from the BIA since 2015. And I think it's attributed to our work in the transboundary area. So we've been successful to receive funding every year from the BIA since 2015. And so recently we received $200,000 to continue our efforts. We started out with the 3 rivers, Sakine, Taku, and the Eunuch, which we haven't been able to sample yet, but and then added the other rivers, the Alsek, Chilkat, and Klehini. So regarding the climate change, we recently received another $150,000 from the Bureau of Indian Affairs to do an economic climate adaptation plan. So those are some really good accomplishments, and I thank Ray and the rest of the crew for that.
Great. Can you elaborate and share some of the goals for the Native Lands and Resource Department for 2020?
Sure, yes, I'd be glad to. So, of course, the economic climate change adaptation plan that we're currently working on, and also we are wanting to execute our Southeast Regional Tribal Conservation District. And so we kind of got a little behind because of the COVID and stuff, but now we're able to, I guess, sign these digitally. At first they wanted, original signatures, so Ray's been working on that to get that in place. We want to begin sampling on the Eunuch River, so we've been in touch with Ketchikan Indian community recently. I think we might be able to go out there in the next month or so. So that's in the works. So that's really exciting. Of course, we want to implement the Native Allotment Veterans Program. We've been assisting our veterans for over a year now, and it looks like the applications will be coming out soon. So we'll be helping them identify lands. We have our GIS up and running. Kenneth Weitzel is proficient at that. that can help with the veterans. And then also, we received some funding for a greenhouse, and we're hoping to put that in back of the Edward Thomas building. And we're in the process of purchasing a greenhouse, and that'll be really great for our tribe.
Great. Wow. You know, I said, I listened to you say you guys are behind, but I think it's a phenomenal amount of work that your whole department has accomplished. It's really hard to wrap your arms around that and really grasp what it is you're accomplishing, and how closely you work with our other Southeast tribes. You know, and I know we'll get to some of the public questions, and I know they're, you know, what are we doing in different areas, you know, and I will elaborate more on that, but we really work with our Southeast tribes, and through those conferences that we host, are able to prioritize the work we do in the transboundary and some of the other things. So, you know, first and foremost, we always want to respect our tribes and make sure that we're not stepping on their toes, and that they're taking the lead on that work, and that we are supporting it. And, you know, we come in where needed, but really try to just hold them up and support where we can. I want to thank all of you. That wraps up our conversation. Immensely proud of your department and all you accomplish and on all levels. So again, just very appreciative. We'll now turn to our public questions from our tribal citizens. So Sam, the floor is yours.
Thank you, everyone. Our first question today is, I believe, is directed to Harold. Helene Simpson was curious about the repatriated items, and if you had a kind of ballpark number on how many were Haida.
We have not repatriated any Haida objects. I have been asked to not deal with Haida objects.
And that comes from the Haida communities, correct?
Yes.
So I know when I was the president of the organized village of Ksm, which is one of the Haida villages, we really kind of back off. We want to let the local tribes take the lead on those. And again, Harold provided quite a bit of technical support when asked. And when they take those trips, if he noticed something was Haida, he would share it back to us and make sure we are aware of those items there.
Awesome. This one also has to deal with repatriated items. Laura Revels is curious if these would ever be available online, you know, a database with the artist, clan, and the artist, the clan, and the area that they're from.
We would probably have to have permission of the clan leaders to do something like that, but it's not undoable, I don't think, President Peterson.
No, it's something we'd very much like to do at some point, and we have some plans in the future for how we can share the Aturu. But again, it is sensitive. It's clan property, and unfortunately, the way NAGPA is written, they don't really recognize the clans. They recognize the federally recognized tribes. So as we do this work, there's a tremendous amount of sensitivity that goes into it. And so sometimes, you know, you can misstep, and we're really cognizant of trying to watch out for those missteps and make sure we do it right. And there's never 100% right, but we're really cognizant of that.
Excellent. Our next question is from Keenan Sanderson. He's wondering, has Tlingit Haida looked into fin fish monitoring like salmon, herring, hooligan, or halibut?
Yeah. Hello. Yes, this is something that we have actually looked into. Right now, I think on we're trying to do, if you will, coordinate this on a regional effort, as it is kind of spendy, and one of the problems that we have, again, are our capacity and our resources. But we'd love to be able to do this on a regional effort where we're able to monitor finfish, salmon, herring, and essentially what we'd be looking for is tissue sampling to ensure that the fish that we're eating or gathering are safe to eat. We're not yet there though, but that's something we want to be able to do in the future shortly.
Awesome, thank you. Our next question is from Andrew Strobel. Do the cultural and environmental programs work and have consultation with outside governments and agencies to protect resources?
Absolutely. We work kind of across the board, state, from municipal, state, and federal. We have MOAs with like the Forest Service. Even those that we don't have MOAs with, though, we do work and we get consulted. Even, you know, things as cell phone towers, we get notice on those. And so we monitor whether those are in culturally sensitive areas. The Department of Transportation refers to us quite a bit for similar things. So yeah, across the board.
Awesome. This next question is from John and Lisa Young. They're wondering, do you monitor the impacts all the cruise ships might have on our shores where we gather all of our traditional foods? Impacts from dumping of sewage, fuel emissions when docked on land, etc.
Do you want to tackle that, Ray?
Yeah, sure. Currently, right now, we don't have a program that monitors cruise ships. That is something actually that's been discussed at our last Southeast Environmental Conference, and actually that we are going to be discussing a bit more at our upcoming conference, which is going to be virtually. So currently, right now, we don't have any monitoring programs, but it is something that we definitely have a huge concern for and want to address.
I will say though, while we're not doing actual monitor work, we are meeting with the state agencies and the federal agencies. Ray and I have actually had several meetings with those folks where we're raising those concerns and sharing. We do want to be actually doing monitoring. We're really concerned about the impacts, of course.
For sure.
Excellent. Our next question is from Jessica Domini. If the veteran has already passed away, is his or her family eligible to receive lands?
Hi, yes. Hi, Jessica. Yes, they are eligible. If the veteran served between August 5th, 1964 and December 31st, 1971, they are eligible for a native allotment. What has to happen is someone has to be a personal representative. So it can be anyone. So they need to start the paperwork now to apply for a personal representative because it takes some time. I had a client that just got her personal representative for her brother. She had her attorney do it. We can help in the process. Just contact our office. Thanks for that question.
Thank you. Our next question is from Andrew Strobel. Is the veteran list public, and is there a way we can support our tribal veterans elders through this process?
It's not public because it has personal information, but if you contact our office, I have a list that the Bureau of Land Management has given us of about 220 veterans in the Southeast region. If you think that a veteran is eligible, contact our office and I can look at our list. If they're not on the list, I'll contact BLM to see if they're on that list. So this is a partial list. We are expecting another list to come out in the next couple of weeks for another probably couple hundred veterans in Southeast.
Awesome. Our next question comes from Edward Bean. He's just asking, is anything going to be done for veterans who have passed on? We may have covered that a little bit.
Yes, so yeah, regarding the allotments, yes. If they serve between the 1964 and 1971 dates, then they are eligible for a Native allotment, but they need a personal representative to apply for them. And so since the applications are coming out in November, it would be good to start getting the personal representatives in place right now. The application period is open for 5 years, but it's on a first come, first served basis right now. So if someone selects some land and you select the same land, the first person that gets their application in gets that land.
Awesome. Next question comes from Tommy G. Will CCTH ITA and the Chilkat, as well as the Constantine project, or add the Constantine project as a priority for Klukwan and property owners impacted by a proposed mine? Also, what is the current process used by the tribe to gather input from citizens about land and resource issues?
So as we stated, the Chilkat has been added. They're doing work there. As far as like the Constantine project, so again, we always defer to the local tribe to take the lead on that. We have had leadership from their tribe reach out, and we're talking, and of course through the conferences and work peer to peer, we're absolutely supportive of Klukwan and Haynes and their efforts. But again, we let them take the lead on things that are in their backyard, and we offer, resources and just whatever we can to support their efforts. As far as input from citizens, you're always free to reach out. I think we make, at the end of this, we make contact information available. It's on our website. But a lot of what for us to get that input, we get a lot of it from the tribes on a tribe-to-tribe basis. Our environmental programs in Southeast tribal programs work extremely close together, and I think really accomplish quite a bit. So I appreciate that question, Tommy.
Awesome. Our next question is from Melissa Museth. Can we get some Tlingit potatoes in the greenhouse?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. In fact, actually, I think we hope to add a lot of our traditional food stuff, if you will, from Southeast in the greenhouse. So Tlingit potatoes will definitely be one of those.
Great. Our last question that I have is from Richard Siverly, and he's wondering if regalia for a clan could be put into a trust so that it could never be sold.
Harold?
There, I'm off mute. That's a interesting question. I don't know how we would do that. I know one clan has done it, but I'm not too sure of the success of it.
There are some items that we have that weren't repatriated through NEGPRA, and I think those we can do an agreement between the clan and ourselves without the burden of NEGPRA rules. I think it's something we can explore, if they wanted to put them in our care, but I don't think that's what he's asking. So I think there are some folks who are really progressive. Gail DeBalas, I know they've been doing some progressive things with their clan, Jackie Peta. So you might talk to folks like that, and they might have some good answers for you.
I think that's all the questions I have today.
Great. Well, wow, we ended right at 1 o'clock. Pretty amazing. Again, I think today's panel was a terrific panel. I think, good information. And for we had a lot of people tuned in today. And as always, these are always available on our Facebook page and also our YouTube channel if you want to go back and watch them or suggest them to your friends and family who might get something out of it. This week we have our drawing winners, and we have 2 David Boxley t-shirts. And the first winner is Myron Igtanglock, and the second winner is Lillian Hunter Woodbury. So for those of you who won, if you could message us your contact information, we'll get those mailed out to you ASAP. And again, thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. Be sure to tune in next week and join us. Again, thank our sponsors, Sacred Grounds, Smokehouse Catering, Sacred Shine Auto Detailing, and we're pay attention for those of you in Juneau. Sacred Shine is moving to a new, bigger, better location, and so we'll be making announcements soon. And also to our Elizabeth Pradovich Hall. We'll be making an announcement very soon on next week's topic. And anyways, for all of you tuned in, we greatly appreciate it. Appreciate the panel, and be sure to take care of yourselves out there. You know, we know that COVID has really been impacting our communities, and we lift our communities up in prayer and support, and make sure everybody's being careful. Be well. See you next week.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Great job, guys.